So there's two stocks that I want to talk about in this video, and one is a quantum computer stock called D-Wave, ticker symbol QBTS, and another stock is BigBear.ai, ticker symbol BBAI. And these stocks are both very interesting to me for different reasons, and I want to go into kind of some analysis, some recent news articles that were published. I want to look at the company financials, and I want to do a little bit of price analysis on the stock chart and maybe give some potential predictions. So let's jump right in. So a lot of interviews don't go very deep, or not for me, because I want to get into the nitty-gritty, the details. Like, what do these CEOs really think? What do they think of other companies? What do they think about their company? I want real insights, deeper insights. And what I love about this ZDNet article is that's exactly what we get. We're getting a little bit deeper than that surface level 5-minute Bloomberg interview. And we're going to go through this article in depth, and then we're going to look at the financials for D-Wave QBTS, and then we're going to talk about their stock chart, and then we're going to go over to BigBear.ai and similar. We're going to follow the same format. We're going to look at a recent news article, look at their financials, and then check out their stock chart. So D-Wave revives quantum supremacy. So D-Wave just released their Advantage 2 system, which they say offers orders of magnitude greater performance compared to its prior system, expanding the tasks the company can accomplish in optimization problems. So I've gone in and highlighted some relevant parts. This is a pretty long deep dive article. So we have Trevor Lanting, Chief Development Officer at D-Wave, saying it's a fundamentally massive leap in performance. The Advantage 2 improves upon its predecessor along multiple vectors, most prominent by making a total of 20 connections from 4,400 qubits to other qubits, up from 15 connections in the original Advantage. The company is able to double the coherence time, the narrow window in which quantum calculations can be measured. So doubling the coherence gets us answers much faster, noted Lanting. Then they talk about the different kinds of quantum machines. There's the gate-based model and the annealing. This was interesting to me. An algorithm on a computer simulates the metallurgical process. It allows the variables of a problem to figuratively heat up by loosening constraints on what values they can take, so that more possible configurations can be tried. Through such trial and error, values of a problem eventually settle into a stable, low-energy state that is the solution to a problem. D-Wave has built a quantum version. Like a traditional computer chip, the D-Wave processor is made up of various metal layers arranged in a matrix of computing cores that connect to one another over communications mesh. The annealing process doesn't lend itself to universal operations of the gate computers, but it makes D-Wave's machines very good at one type of problem: optimization. Optimization involves multiple variables that have to coalesce into an ideal state to solve a problem. So optimization, when we see that hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent on building out data centers, building out huge GPU data centers, which also require a ton of energy to run. And there's also a huge demand for these large language models. Even more recently, Sam Altman said, we didn't anticipate this amount of demand. So optimization in the computing world is very valuable. It's a tool that helps reduce energy costs, and over a long period of time can save a company a lot of money on their outlay. Today, we can solve problems that are in the hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of variables range. We ultimately need to be solving problems that are in the tens of millions of variables range. This starts to open that up for us. So currently D-Wave addresses 1/4 of the market for quantum, the optimization side, a capability unique to the company's annealing technologies. Two other categories that the machine can ultimately address are linear algebra and factorization problems, while the fourth, differential equations, is limited to gate style. So we can address roughly 3/4 of the total addressable market, 1/4 of that exclusively ours. So this is one of the things that makes D-Wave kind of exclusive in a way. While all the other companies have pursued this gate-based system, D-Wave has specialized in annealing, and it's kind of like a path less traveled thing. We saw in a recent interview within the last 2 to 3 weeks that Dr. Baratz said that there was a time that it was thought that only gate-based quantum computers were going to be needed, but the thinking has changed now that both gate-based and annealing machines will be used, as well as as well as GPUs and CPUs. So we are on the cutting edge of technology, and understanding is being developed in real time. So it's important that we kind of think about this, process the information, and keep our understanding up to date as things change. So the general availability of Advantage 2 follows years of testing on the prototype version of the machine by D-Wave customers, including running over 20 million customer jobs on the machine. 25 of the top 2,000 global corporations, including Mastercard and Japanese telecom giant entity Docomo, are already using the machine, said Baratz. So a lot of these challenges, this is the CEO, can be addressed by solving hard computational problems, whether it's figuring out how to optimize your supply chain or figuring out how to improve operating efficiency in business. At the core, a lot of these issues is solving hard optimization problems, and that's what we're all about. So this is where it gets interesting for me. The company is working on how to train generative AI models, such as large language models. You could envision hyperscalers buying these systems to be a part of their AI infrastructure as well, he said of Google and other tech giants. So imagine you have your GPU stack and your server rack, and then you have a quantum annealing machine, and then you have a gate-based machine, and all of these machines are handling compute in different ways, and the efficiency is doubled or tripled or 10x or 100x because of the efficiency that quantum computer brings. If people start to think of quantum computers as complementary versus competitive, I think it would help a lot of people wrap their minds around the technology. You're not going to go to Walmart and buy a quantum computer for $600 that's going to run Crisis, and you're going to see every single pore in someone's skin. That's not what a quantum computer is going to do. A quantum computer is going to be part of a larger compute stack. And we just heard NVIDIA's CEO in his Computex speech, finally, he says in public that the future of computing is CPU plus GPU plus QPU. So quantum processing unit could be annealing and could be gate-based, or it could be both. So we have to leave our mind open to the possibilities. The Advantage 2 in a prototype version running only 1,200 qubits was compared against the Frontier supercomputer running at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory of the U.S. Department of Energy. So this is about their quantum supremacy claim, where they claimed that by measuring a magnetic material and extracting its properties, it underwent a phase transition. And quantum supremacy is essentially the idea that a quantum computer can outperform a classical computer. This is giving you tools to do calculations that not only are beyond the reach of classical supercomputers, but are really fundamentally much more energy efficient than any other means of doing these hard calculations. Very long article, but lots of meat here. So I really wanted to go over it in depth. Then we talk about a little bit. The idea would be to produce a more energy efficient blockchain that harnesses the supremacy calculation. So this is an interesting part of this article. The competition is no competition. So D-Wave CEO is unfazed by the recent raft of announcements from deep-pocketed tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. None of these three are competition to us because they're all gate model systems and we're annealing. They're different. Okay, that's fair. As for Microsoft's chip, Baratz goes on to say it was a sham. They did not demonstrate even 1 qubit, let alone 8. I don't think it's, everyone's entitled to their opinion on things. I wouldn't be actively antagonizing larger tech companies. I don't think it really does anything long-term for D-Wave, but Baratz did not remark on IonQ or Rigetti, though in the past he has said the optimization problem approach of annealing is far more applicable to current market demand than are these companies' gate-style machines. So up until now, it's been more qubits per chip. And we hear a lot of quantum computing companies talk about qubits per chip, qubit density on the actual chip. With Advantage 3, we'll be interconnecting chips because we believe that will allow us to scale a lot faster. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Rigetti CEO said something similar, that they want to put multiple chips together to harness more power. So instead of cramming a bunch of qubits on one chip, they want to do essentially an array. Think about it, 4,000 or 5,000 qubit chips combined together is 20,000 qubits overnight. So they're also building a gate model system. So D-Wave, super interesting. Let's look at the financials for D-Wave. So we see that the stock price has gone absolutely insane. So since 2022, it blew past its all-time highs, and it's just going up and up and up. And where is it going to go? We're in this period of price discovery. This looks really good because suddenly they have this spike in revenue. Now, this spike in revenue was because they sold a D-Wave Advantage system to Jülich in Germany, a supercomputer center. Now, will we see something like next quarter, a bar like this, where yes, there's year over year growth, but quarter over quarter, there's a steep drop off. That's my main concern at this point. We haven't heard a strong indication that they're going to be able to keep up increasing revenue like this quarter over quarter. So their net income, they've also been able to, it looks like they had a quarter where they spent a lot and they've been able to reel that back considerably. Their operating income, if you look at just the last 3 quarters, is trending positive. Free cash flow is trending negative. Operating cash flow is trending negative. Their CapEx is increasing a bit. And one thing, and potentially the most impressive thing, is their cash and cash equivalents. So we see that they have less total debt and they have more cash, which is always something you want to see in a company and their financials. So that gives them a lot of runway, even if they miss on revenue and their stock price goes down, there is still a lot of cash for them to continue to survive. And I talked to a D-Wave investor, even in the comments on the YouTube channel, and he said they've been amazing at survival. This company has done a great job, but 2025 just seems, if you look at the last years, I mean, look at the revenue. I mean, if they can put up numbers like this in 2025, 2026, watch out. So look at the chart. Let's look at it. Since this earnings where they crushed, we have seen a 190% move, probably one of the biggest missed trades in my lifetime to date, is not buying call options here when this stock was trading at 680. I did add a bunch of shares. I think I bought over 1,000 shares the day before. And remember, I got you guys the Murray Tom interview, so you could make an informed decision. It was like 4 hours before market close. I got you that Murray Tom interview, and the stock ever since has just been going up and up and up and up. So where do we go from here? I'm going to show you guys some drawings that I have. All these gray lines are essentially key areas where I think if there is pullback in the near term, where we could see support. And D-Wave looks hyper bullish. So could it break through its all-time highs after 3 days, Memorial Day weekend, and people thinking about quantum and being like, you know what, I want some quantum? Definitely, that could absolutely happen. Could it sell off? Could it bounce off 1910 and come down to 1780 and chop around this channel as we saw this price range before between 1034 and 1192? It formed a base of support. Could we see just a higher level of base of support? Or could we see a lot of selling pressure come in, and could we see it bounce off 1762, come down, and move down to this 1496, where we can see that there's a lot of wick touches there and quite a bit of support? For it to really move down here, I think there would need to be some sort of black swan event or some really terrible news for D-Wave. But the consumer sentiment, the investor sentiment seems to be at an all-time high for D-Wave. So really, really awesome there. Okay, let's move into BigBear.ai. So BigBear.ai, so the Motley Fool put out 3 high-powered AI stocks that could be the next Palantir Technologies. And I know some of you are like, oh, rolling your eyes like the Motley Fool, they're just writing for SEO. And they are, but I did find quite a bit of value and a good summary. Like within a few paragraphs, they really tell the story of why BigBear.ai. And let's talk about that. Let's look at the company financials, and then let's look at the chart and see what the fuss is about. So people are looking for that 10x, 15x. They're looking for a disruptor or a company that is going to do great in the market. So BigBear is an AI-powered decision intelligent solutions for government agencies. While the stock has struggled this year, falling 14%, the company's fundamentals tell a different story about its potential as a turnaround play in the lucrative government AI market. In February, we see that the stock had this epic rally up to from $4 to almost $10 a share. And then it sold off considerably in a challenging macro. BigBear serves as a critical technology partner to agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, delivering AI solutions for digital identity verification and national security applications. So BigBear can be seen in airports like Heathrow, and they scan your face and they use AI to determine patterns of if there's a threat to Homeland Security or that type of thing. So think Big Brother. BigBear.ai. This government-first approach mirrors Palantir's early strategy, building deep relationships with agencies that have massive budgets and long contract cycles. Financially, BigBear is showing signs of stabilization. First quarter revenue grew 5% year over year to $34.8 million, while the company significantly improved its net loss from $127.8 million to $62 million. So they cut their net loss in half there. Management affirmed its 2025 outlook for revenue between 160 to 180 million, suggesting confidence. So essentially they're reiterating their ability to make revenue even in tariff and an uncertain environment. They also have built up their cash position with 176.6 million in cash. BigBear has the financial flexibility to invest in growth initiatives while government agencies increasingly prioritize AI. So with a market cap of 1.1 billion compared to Palantir's $288 billion valuation, BigBear trades at a significant discount despite operating in the same high-growth government AI market. So very interesting, very interesting. We know that Palantir, if you're following the market closely, we know that Palantir is very expensive. Where does BigBear stack up financially? Well, they have been consistent. Let's just say they've been consistent, and their revenue has been kind of chopping around since 2020, this 30 to 44 million point. And the stock price has had rallies and dips and rallies and dips, but the most significant rally in the last 4 years has been this year in 2025. It looks like they've improved their net income, which we saw in the article. They've improved their free cash flow. We see that cost and OPEX appears to be slightly trending downwards. Perhaps the most important metric of all is their cash and cash equivalent. They have got out of a lot of their debt. It looks like they've done some cleaning of house also with refiling former year financials. And they have the CEO, Kevin McKellan, let's see, CEO BigBear, who was formerly in the Trump White House in his previous administration and has a lot of ties to Homeland Security. So we see that this stock, so we've looked at the company, we've looked at the article. Now let's look at what the stock is doing. So in the last 3 months after this sell-off, we've seen just kind of this chopping around. And I have some drawings here, but what is interesting to me is that BigBear has really found a support around this sort of $3 area. It seems like it wants to be above $3. I want to show you guys that there's a pretty clear since late April, this rising support that's been happening. And this rising support is essentially when you connect the lows of a stock versus trading days, and you see that there is some upward momentum. So we can see on the chart that after their March earnings, there was this gap down, and the stock went down in a market that was already pretty bearish on pretty much every stock in the market. And now we've seen kind of at this late April, we've seen sort of this change in sentiment, and it's wanting, it's not quite there yet, but it's wanting to have a little bit of its own party. And we've seen that it's gone up to $4. We've seen that it's touched where it sold off and gapped down before. So if we look at the last 5 days of trading, what I'm looking at is that Big Bear has got over $4 3 times in the last maybe 8 trading sessions, and there was a pretty significant gap up. So there's been no particular catalyst for Big Bear to do this. There's just a lot of buying enthusiasm, a lot of traders probably in the symbol because it's talked about so much. But imagine what's going to happen to Big Bear when they have news of a new contract or new partnership. So it's really setting up bullish. Is it possible that it sells down and the excitement can die down for this? Sure. Okay, let's move the chart here and just go over a couple potential scenarios. So if we bounce off rising support and come above $4 and then use $4, then I could see that being bullish. One thing to watch out for with Big Bear is if it rejects off $4 and then breaks this rising support, then it could go down to previous levels like $3 or $2.40. I think the market is primed for a run for Big Bear. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you took value out of this analysis on QBTS, D-Wave, and BigBear.ai, ticker symbol BBAI. If you enjoy content like this, please consider leaving a like or subscribe. It really helps me grow. Just have a small channel here on YouTube, but it has been growing recently. So really appreciate all the support. And I turned myself into a Muck Morty. All right, guys, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon.